Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Diane's been working with buyers and sellers in the Missoula market for over 25 years and shares her insights on the local housing market. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO.
As always, we appreciate you joining us for Missoula Real Estate Today. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. And we have, one returning guest. Justin has been here before. Kristi is new. But we're joined with folks from Payne West Insurance. We have Justin Montelius, who's a sales exec with Payne West, and Kristi Kissell. Kristi is an account manager with Payne West Insurance here on Missoula Real Estate Today. I welcome you both. And Justin, we'll go ahead and get reacquainted with you. Welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well, Dan. Appreciate you having us.
A little background, how you came to be at Payne West and then what all a sales exec does.
Yeah, so I kind of grew up around the insurance industry. My dad's been there 30 years. My brother's been there a couple of years longer than I have.
Wow.
So I think it was just kind of a natural fit. A little history of Payne West, Western States and Payne Financial, both around more than 30 years, merged I think it was about 8 years ago. And, I think we've grown to 25 plus offices in 4 different states.
Yeah, I remember when you talked about that merger some time ago, but really the origins, it's always cool to have folks that are with businesses that have been in Missoula a long, long time. You know, you get some interesting background on the origins and how it's become kind of part of the fabric, really.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. One of the biggest privately owned independent insurance agencies in the Northwest, and based out of Missoula, Montana. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, very good. And Kristi Kissell with Payne West Insurance, account manager, first time on the show. We welcome you. And how'd you get involved with Payne West, and what all does the account manager got to do?
Yeah, well, I actually moved here to Montana about almost 2 years ago now. I used to actually work for a direct insurance company, and every time I would get agents calling into me, they'd always be from Payne West and say how much they loved it. So I was like, oh my goodness, like I have to do this. And so I made the jump and saw an opportunity in Montana, and I've always wanted to move here. So I jumped ship and came over to the agency side, and it's been great.
And you were not in Missoula prior to that?
Correct. I was actually in Spokane, Washington.
Gotcha. Okay.
I moved around a lot. Probably every 3 to 4 years. My husband was military, and so we did a lot of moving, and I finally wanted to settle down. And so, like I said, I heard nothing but great things from, the agents calling in and just how much fun the company was and their days were working with clients. So what I do on my side is I work hand in hand with Justin, and I continue the accounts throughout the years.
Yeah.
So anytime someone needs help with anything, whether they're buying a new house or switching vehicles or just have questions, I am their go-to person every day.
So you were sold on it. You were told how great everybody was at Payne West, but when you actually got here and you started working with Justin Montelius, were you a little disappointed?
He has his ups and downs with it.
What? I said the types of insurance Payne West. So you pretty much run the gamut, right?
Yep. So we're a full service agency, anything from, benefits, commercial, small commercial, personal lines. If it's insurable, usually we have an option for you.
Yeah, absolutely. When somebody is shopping for insurance, what are some of the most common questions you get asked?
I would say the majority of it is, people always talk about price.
Sure.
Everyone wants to save money. What we try to bring to the table, though, is value. Value sometimes is more important, making sure that that your clients are covered correctly, in the event of a loss, that, everything will be taken care of rather than, not finding a hole in a policy or a gap that, could leave someone, weary and, unattractive towards the insurance industry.
And of course, it's your folks' job to sell it, but you're always going to get that, aren't you? You've got to be, when the little red flags start flying about cutting corners and cutting costs, understandable. But in the case of insurance, you only want to cut so many corners, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we try and do is we really try and get to know our clients, talk to them more as friends and really just get to know them. That way we can really build value into what they're getting And, we're not selling it on the price. We're showing them exactly what they need for their situations and how it'll benefit them in case something should happen.
Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Justin Montelius, account executive, and Kristi Kissell, account manager with Payne West Insurance here in Missoula. And since we are on, Diane's real estate show, let's start with homeowners insurance, you two. What questions do you ask the customers to get a feel for what policy is best suited for them?
I would say, what fits their needs. Where are you buying? How close are you to town? What assets do you have? So with that, I mean, we're going to look at liability limits. We want to make sure liability limits are sufficient. We want to make sure that, if you're in an area that, obviously with Missoula, prices have really inflated. The price of dirt's really high.
Yeah.
So sometimes the discrepancy between what you buy a house for and what it costs to rebuild is large. So it's always making sure that, we have enough coverage that, if something catastrophic does happen, that we have the right coverage in place to make sure that they're going to get taken care of.
Since you brought that up, Justin, even realtors, for example, we've had Diane obviously on her own show recently, as well as Brent Wahlberg from Windermere Real Estate on recently. And Brent's kind of the numbers guy, was talking about median home prices in Missoula have gone up. I don't know. I think it's in the $60,000 range in the past year, from like 310, 315 to up around 375 and beyond there. Ask a realtor, are you surprised? And even realtors say, yeah, I'm totally stunned. Are insurance people surprised at what kind of, because the price of that home is going to affect the investment in insurance, but is the insurance business surprised by such a jump in housing prices in Missoula?
I think a little bit, yeah. I mean, we see it coming, but I mean, for me being a newcomer, to the state, I saw kind of where it was when I first came here 2 years ago to what it is today. And for me, I'm surprised just continually watching it grow and grow.
Right.
And it doesn't seem to be stopping.
Well, hand in hand with that, what are some examples that you see often of where customers are likely underinsured?
So I'd say typically it has to do with endorsements on their policies. So, with like the recent cold spell that we've had, I would say that, if you don't have water or sewer backup coverage, pipes freeze, depending on where they are, that could be a gap in coverage.
When you say endorsement, is that like an addendum or a rider? Explain endorsement to me.
So endorsement, it's a rider. So it's something that you're going to pay a little bit of additional premium for.
Sure, okay.
It just further protects you. It's it's an extra layer of extra shield that goes on top. So, so I'd say that's the biggest thing that we run into is that, people are only focused on price. They're probably not going to have the best policy. I mean, granted, every client's different and everyone's needs are different. But, it's having the conversations that, hey, number one claims that we usually get are water. Or, does your roof have replacement costs or is it actual cash value? We've had really strong winds in the last couple of years, and I don't really remember that growing up being in Missoula my whole life. So, if you wake up in the morning and half your shingles are gone, are you going to get a new roof or are you going to get, just a check for half of it?
I'm glad I heard that from a fellow lifelong Missoulian, because I was kind of thinking the same thing, When did Missoula get so dang windy? I was kind of thinking that myself. Has anything really changed at all in, in terms of filing claims during a pandemic? Are there delays? Is it more thorough information required? Things like that. Have you seen any changes in all of that in the past year?
I mean, just like with all the other industries, they're really adapting, and they've actually adapted really quickly, where you can actually submit pictures, videos, and kind of just do a walkthrough of it. Mm-hmm. One of the benefits here in Missoula is, having those restoration companies who will come out and do the inspections.
Right.
But I mean, they're very in depth with the insurance companies where, a picture and just answering a few questions still won't stop them, even with COVID. They're definitely taking the precautions that they need for it, but they've really just adapted really well, and it's not slowing anything down. The weather, however, has slowed things down a little bit just for the safety concerns.
Sure.
But for COVID, they've really adapted really well.
All right, good to hear. Yeah. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Justin Montelius, sales executive, and Kristi Kissell, account manager with Payne West Insurance. Payne West Insurance, folks, a good friend of Missoula Real Estate Today. They pop in from time to time. What about I think we talked about this a little bit last time, Justin, but your homeowner's manual and safety checklist, what are some of the key elements that can really help customers by taking a look at that?
And I'm probably guilty of this too, but, once you get settled, take pictures of everything that you have. If you go into every room, just take a picture. So that way, in the event of a loss, then, let's say it's a fire loss and it's a bad loss. At least you know what you have rather than you try to sit there and, think about what you had before. Yeah. Some of the other stuff that would be on that would be, do you have a fire extinguisher in the house? If there's a grease fire that was going to start or anything that would start in the kitchen, are you able to put it out quickly or is it going to, ruin everything? So I think it's just trying to be proactive on, the fact that, in the event of something, are you going to be prepared or are you going to be blindsided?
Yeah. Where do you think most customers stand on a score? Do most of them have, on what's on your checklist? Do they score maybe a 25% or a 70%, or you got a lot of A+ students? Where do you think most people fall?
We hope that everyone's an A+ student.
Well, they're not. You know that. No, but typically, I imagine just about everybody's.
Yeah, not everyone's ever going to experience a fire loss or, a bad water loss. But yeah, some of it's common sense. So
yeah.
But, a lot of things that happen too is, it's accidents. It's maybe you left the stove on and something happened, or, you went out of town for the weekend and got really cold and a pipe burst.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that are in your control, and then there's a lot of things that are out of your control, and that's why you should have home insurance.
Yeah. And every homeowner, everybody needs insurance, and so you serve such a broad demographic of customers. But are there any trends or popular options that customers are looking for in home insurance policies right now?
I would say like the big things that have come out recently would be with cyber liability, and it would also be with
service line.
Service line coverage. Yeah. So service line would be, any pipes or anything like that are coming into the house. So you had a big tree in the backyard, root goes through a pipe. That's something that typically was not covered in the past. It's a lot of things that insurance companies are adapting to now. Mm-hmm. And then cyber, we live in a social media world.
Sure.
So, if you get on the internet and, make someone mad and they decide to sue you. So now there's coverage for stuff like that too. So I would say that everything's ever changing and, probably for the better. It's a different world than it was probably 5 years ago. And, like I said, there's always new coverages that are coming out.
Yeah. Wow, that's a weird one. What is that, the litigious clause or the litigious loot that you should have in your policy somewhere? Renters insurance and homeowners insurance policies. Of course, there are a lot of renters in Missoula. How do they differ and how are they similar?
The renters insurance really is just protecting the things that you own. You don't own the place that you're staying in, so you don't really need to cover that. That's up to your landlord or property manager, whichever it is. So, for the renter's insurance, you're really just protecting yourself in case a fire were to happen, somebody were to break into your home. You want to protect your own belongings and make sure that you can get those back. The other thing as well is the liability aspect of it. Because you are renting, you can be liable for certain things, so that will really protect you. Versus a homeowner, you want to protect your house. And so if something were to happen, your house burns down or a tree falls on it, that's now coming out of your pocket that you now have to pay for. And, of course, it also protects your personal belongings and liability and everything. But the big difference is, you have a whole house to cover now.
Yeah. And therefore probably not as big of an investment for obvious reasons. Right. But the principle still remains the same. You want to make sure, Justin was talking about, make sure you, in the checklist, make sure you take pictures of everything. Same deal applies.
Exactly.
You want to make sure that whatever it is that is in your rental that belongs to you, you want to make sure that is.
And it all adds up very quickly. Yeah. You don't even realize it.
Yeah. Also, can you explain actual cash value coverage and also replacement cost value, and how does all of that affect premiums?
So it's different, on different policy forms. So actual cash value would be, say your house burned down, you bought your TV for $500 3 years ago. Now it's worth $200. So, and replacement cost is they're going to buy you a brand new TV. So, it's, value minus depreciation, or it's completely replacing something that you had. So, if you bought a couch 2 years ago, maybe it was $1,000. Now they're $1,500. So it's kind of like, what, do you want $500 or do you want a brand new one? Yeah. So it's sometimes what it comes down to is getting cut a check rather than actually, being able to go pick out what you want.
And then depending on what you choose there, does that affect the price of the policy?
No, I would say that basically every carrier that we work with is on a replacement cost basis. There are certain instances that might differ that, but for the most part, everything that we do is on replacement cost basis.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and our guest, Justin Montelius, the sales executive, and Kristi Kissell, account manager with Payne West Insurance. Also want to say thank you to some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk KGBO. They include Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, Miles Link at Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. And while Justin and Kristi have a sip of water and take a little break here, it is time for the Becktacular listing of the week from Diane Beck and Windermere Real Estate's listings. 17605 Calamity Lane, that is in Huson, Calamity Lane, Huson. Incredible views, privacy, seclusion, Montana dream home, owner, builder, built for family. All the bells and whistles there, everything on one level. Open concept, a split plan. You got the master on one side with private access to a deck and the other 3 bedrooms on the other. Vaulted ceilings throughout, surround sound in the living area. Just a breathtaking home at 17605 Calamity Lane in Huson, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,892 square feet on 20 acres. If you are interested in that, contact Diane Beck at the Windermere office on South Reserve or get more information at her website, move2missoula.com. That's move, the number 2, Missoula.com. Back to Justin Montelius and Kristi Kissell with Payne West Insurance here on Missoula Real Estate Today. Umbrella insurance, what does that refer to? Can you explain that? And what would an example of that be?
The best way that I explain it is an extended liability policy for you. It's going to extend over everything, all of your assets, your home, your auto insurance. An example is, which sadly, we see kind of from time to time, is a dog bite claim. It can get very pricey,
Sure.
The medical aspects of it. Injuries, the damages that it can do, sadly, can be astronomical in terms of finances. So something like that, could potentially help so you don't end up losing your home or any other assets. You want to make sure that you're protected all around. A really bad car accident is another thing that we see, sadly, that
Sure.
it'll help protect you over. So really, all around, it's an umbrella over everything that you have.
Yeah. Car accident, that's easy to understand. I can imagine if you're making a sales presentation to a potential client and you bring up, do you have a dog? Oh, yes, we do. Well, then you talk about dog bite insurance. I imagine you just get,
Right.
get out of here. Quit trying to upsell. I don't need that.
Right.
But then you present some facts and figures, and it's kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, especially with teenage drivers, with cell phones and everything, you want to make sure that you're fully protected, and so are they.
Yeah. I did ask you earlier in the show about potential mistakes homeowners can make when, trying to cut costs a little bit and being underinsured. Do you see customers making those kinds of mistakes with regards to insuring vehicles, since we just, you were just talking about that a little bit, Kristi. Mm-hmm. Moving on to vehicles here a little bit. We're talking about homeowners insurance a lot for obvious reasons on a real estate show. But do you see those same kind of mistakes sometimes, happening with insuring vehicles?
Sadly, almost every day.
Almost every day.
Yep.
Okay.
You don't think, you need that much or it's never going to happen to you. And it either happens to you or someone close that and you see it happen firsthand. So it's one of those things, building the value, giving examples, life experiences to really show why it's worth it.
Do you find yourself, at least present starting price points, or as a professional, this is what I would recommend as far as an amount, whether it be, collision liability or whatever. You got to have starting points.
Yes.
But you want your customers to be as insured as best they possibly can be. But do you give them examples of where you should at least start?
Yeah, so we kind of have a baseline of where we'd like them to start. It's, more on the higher end, but still pretty average at the same time. We want to make sure that they're taken care of. And in case something does happen, we want to make sure that they have the best that's possible for them. So, we start from there and we just talk it through. Getting to know their life and asking a few more questions about them really helps us understand, which direction they really need to go.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk KGVO, and our two guests from Payne West, Justin Montelius, sales executive, and Kristi Kissell, account manager with Payne West. Kristi, you are fairly new on the job, as you pointed out at the beginning of the show, but what are some of the things you're finding most rewarding about what you've been doing there at Payne West so far? 2 years, right?
Yeah, 2 years. I think it's just really being able to get to know our clients, on a day-to-day basis. I have some that I talk to probably once a month almost, just doing, different things for them, but really just being able to help them. A big thing for me is when they have a teenage driver get their driver's license. It's such a scary time for a parent. And, I'm not a parent myself, but just hearing the emotions or seeing it on their faces, it's pretty scary. And so being able just to talk them through the different coverages and the benefits that they have and just seeing the relief for them is one of the biggest things. Or, if they're worried that they don't have something covered, when they file a claim, just being able to talk them through it, walk them through the claims process. And in the end, they end up having coverage for it. It's such a great part. I mean, it makes me feel so good at the end of the day.
Yeah, nice. Well said. What about you there, Justin Montelius? You're a more multi-generational legacy guy with Payne West Insurance. But over the years, what are some of the things that you've found very, very rewarding about being a part of Payne West Insurance?
I would say there's two things. So the first thing would probably be our culture at Payne West. So we have what we call our 3 C's. It's clients, colleagues, and community.
Say that again. Say it again.
Clients, colleagues, and community.
Clients, colleagues, community. All right, I got that.
So, treat your clients right, treat your colleagues right, and, try to be active in the community. Payne West has numerous opportunities for us to, get out and volunteer. That's, fully paid for all of our colleagues. Obviously, this last year has been a little different with, people going in public and trying to help do stuff. And I would say the other thing that I really enjoy is that every day is different. Every day is a different risk. You might, get something that's easy in town to write, or you might get something that's, 20 miles off the beaten path that, they have to take a 4-wheeler with snow tracks into. And so trying to figure out how to insure that and, just working and asking questions. And, once you do, figure out a way to do something like that, I would say it's kind of rewarding. And it's like, I did something new today that I haven't done.
I don't remember if I asked you that or not the last time you were here about, some of one of the stranger policies you've had to write over the years. Does anything really, really weird stand out? Nothing too crazy.
No, nothing too crazy. I've written stuff that's so far off the beaten path that it's cool that we, have carrier partners that will work with us to find a solution.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so, if, a lot of times, when something like that comes up, if it's that far off the beaten path, premiums are usually higher. If a fire starts, it's probably going to be a total loss. Yeah. So, the insurance companies are taking a lot of risk on it. But at the same time, we're field underwriters for the most part, and we got to make sure, is there defensible space? Are they taking the right precautions? All that kind of stuff.
Besides a pandemic, has there been anything in the industry, in the business over the last few years that has kind of surprised you about the way you conduct business now, or has it stayed pretty, straightforward, status quo? But just anything odd that maybe you would have thought, man, I wouldn't have anticipated that coming up in this industry or in my job.
I think the face-to-face part is the big difference. We used to have people that came into the office, every month to pay their bill, or, people that just wanted to meet and face-to-face to talk about the new home that they're buying. So now, everything is, usually over the phone or email. Sometimes it's through technology, video chat. So I'd say that's the biggest difference.
That is a biggie, really.
Yeah, the lack of, I guess, human interaction.
Yeah. Kristi, as Justin knows, I always ask this question of my guests on Missoula Real Estate Today, but I always ask about success stories, which I will ask each of you. Any recent transaction or customer service assistance thing that you found particularly rewarding? I don't care who starts.
Yeah, I got one. I had a client that had a rental up in Great Falls. He has multiple rentals around the state, and turned out it was an electrical fire that started in the attic and burnt the whole place down. So like anyone, he gets the call at 1 a.m. and was a little shook up. Told him to get a hold of a restoration company right away. They were Johnny on the spots. Insurance company stepped in and assured him that everything was going to be taken care of, and finally that put him at ease. So those are the things that make you feel good about what you do. That that's the reason you have insurance is in the event of something that you can't control happens, that it's going to be taken care of. Yeah.
How about you, Kristi? Anything in your time at Payne West that jumps out as something that you felt really, really good about?
Yeah, kind of similar story to Justin's last summer. I unfortunately had a client that had a garage fire that extended a little bit into their home, but it actually displaced them. They still currently are not in their home, and they're still restoring it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the great thing is just being able to reach out to them. I mean, that's such a traumatic time. You lose a big part of yourself, when you lose your home and all your belongings. But I mean, at Payne West, between myself and our internal claims team, being able to hold their hand and walk them through it, helping them every step of the way, wherever they needed it, has been such a rewarding thing.
You get pretty emotionally attached sometimes, don't you?
You do. You really do. I mean, in a way, you do become a part of their life, because they really depend on you when something bad happens.
Yeah. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk KGVO. Our guests, Justin Montelius and Kristi Kissell, sales executive and account manager, respectively, with Payne West Insurance. You get your free commercial time now, guys. Why should we choose Payne West?
I just think that we're a one-stop shop. We're going to bring certain things to the table that maybe our competitors don't. We're going to take the time to, sit down with you, analyze and look at what risks and what needs that you have, and, come up with a personalized solution for you.
Very good. If folks want to get a hold of Payne West Insurance, I know that you don't have much walk-in traffic right now. What's your physical location, and what are some of the best ways to get a hold of you folks at Payne West Insurance?
Yeah, so the best is, we're located over on Palmer Street, right across from Pacific Recycling and Steel. We're still available by appointment to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. You can always call 721-1000, and our admin team can direct you to someone. And our website's great as well. You can actually request a quote online.
All right. Did I miss anything? How did I do? Did we get everything covered?
No, I think you did.
Anything?
We're good.
Chris, do you want to add anything to that?
No? Good.
All right. Very good. Justin Montelius and Kristi Kissell with Payne West Insurance on Missoula Real Estate Today. Great job, you two. Come back soon, would you?
Yeah,
thank you
absolutely.
so much.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@windermere.com, or for a complete directory of Diane's listings, visit move2missoula.com. That's move2missoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.